Awaken the God within. Awaken the God within. The End of Hustle and the Beginning of Everything by Malcolm Kingley. Chapter 1. The Great Reversal. You've been lied to, not maliciously perhaps, but the lie is so complete, so universally accepted, that even those teaching it believe its truth. The lie says you must grind harder, network better, optimize your morning routine, manifest with more intensity, and visualize until your brain bleeds. The lie says success comes from doing more. Here's what nobody told you. Every moment you spend trying to force life to work, you're actually blocking the very power that would effortlessly deliver everything you need. Every anxious plan, every desperate effort, every "I'll make this happen if it kills me." These aren't bringing you closer to abundance. They're the walls between you and it. What if I told you that right now, in this exact moment, there's an infinite intelligence that knows precisely what you need, has already arranged for its delivery, and is only waiting for you to stop interfering? What if the secret to everything, money, health, relationships, purpose, isn't in doing more, but in the radical act of doing nothing from your personal will? This isn't about laziness. This isn't about checking out. This is about discovering that when you stop operating from the exhausting fiction of personal power, you plug into an infinite current that operates with perfect precision, delivering outcomes you couldn't have orchestrated in 1,000 years of trying. The $1 million phone call. Let me tell you about Sarah. She'd been running her consulting business into the ground for 3 years, 60-hour weeks, cold calls until her voice went hoarse, networking events that felt like death by small talk. Her debt had climbed past $100,000. Collectors were circling. Then one morning, exhausted beyond measure, something in her just stopped. Not gave up, stopped. She sat at her desk, looking at her call list, and realized with absolute clarity, I can't do this anymore. Not because I'm weak, because this isn't how it works. Instead of making those calls, she did something that would have seemed insane the day before. She closed her eyes and really felt, that there was an intelligence infinitely greater than her own anxiety-driven planning. She didn't pray in the traditional sense. She just acknowledged that this intelligence, this organizing principle of the universe, already knew her needs and had already arranged their fulfillment. She let go, not of responsibility, but of the delusion that she was the one making things happen. 15 minutes later, her phone rang. A former client she hadn't heard from in 7 years. I don't know why, but I woke up thinking about that project you helped us with. We're doing something similar, but bigger now. Are you available? The budget is $400,000. Coincidence? That same week, 3 more calls came, all unsolicited, all from directions she never could have predicted. Within a month, her business had reversed course so dramatically that she paid off her entire debt and had money in reserve for the first time in her life. The physics of letting go. Here's what actually happened to Sarah and what's about to happen to you. There's a law operating in the universe more fundamental than gravity. Call it what you want. Divine intelligence, universal principle, the organizing force, the name doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real. It's operating right now. And it responds to one thing above all else, the absence of human interference. Think about how your body heals a cut. You don't consciously direct white blood cells, manage clotting factors, or orchestrate cellular regeneration. You couldn't if you tried. Yet it happens perfectly, every time, unless you interfere by constantly picking at the wound. Your life works the same way. Every problem you're facing right now, financial, relational, physical, has a solution already in motion. But as long as you're frantically trying to force outcomes, you're like someone picking at a wound, preventing the very healing that wants to occur naturally. The love frequency. But here's the crucial part everyone misses. This isn't just about stepping back, it's about what you step into. The organizing principle of the universe operates on a frequency, and that frequency is love. Not emotional love, not romantic love, not even compassionate love, though that's closer. This is love as a force, the cohesive principle that holds atoms together, that turns seeds into forests, that coordinates the trillion processes, keeping you alive right now without your conscious involvement. When you stop operating from personal will and start operating from this love frequency, you don't become passive. You become a conductor for infinite intelligence. You still act, but your actions arise from a different source, not from anxiety and force, but from an inner knowing that moves you with the same efficiency that pumps your blood and fires your neurons. The 3 stages of awakening. Everyone who makes this shift goes through 3 distinct stages. Stage 1, recognition. You realize that your personal efforts are not just insufficient, they're counterproductive. This isn't failure. It's the beginning of wisdom. It's seeing that the operating system you've been using is incompatible with how reality actually works. Stage 2, release. You stop, not out of defeat, but out of understanding. You release the illusion that you're the one making things happen. This feels like death to the ego, because it is, but it's also the birth of something infinitely more powerful. Stage 3, reception. With the channels clear, the infinite intelligence that's always been trying to operate through you finally can. Solutions appear, opportunities arise, people call, resources manifest, not because you attracted them, but because you stopped repelling them with your desperate grasping. Your first experiment. Before you read another word, I want you to try something. Take one problem in your life, preferably something you've been pushing hard to solve. For the next 24 hours, stop all effort to fix it. Not out of resignation, but as an experiment. Instead, every time you think of this problem, do this. Acknowledge that an infinite intelligence exists that already knows the solution. Feel, don't just think, that this intelligence operates through love, meaning it's designed to bring about the highest good for all involved. Know that the solution is already in motion, has always been in motion, and your job is simply to stop blocking it. Then go about your day, act on what feels natural and effortless. Ignore what feels forced or anxious. Watch what happens. I can tell you what will happen because it happens to everyone who genuinely tries this. Within 24 hours, something will shift. A call will come. An idea will arise. A door will open. Something you couldn't have planned will occur. This isn't magic. This is law. The same law that grows trees and heals bones and keeps planets in orbit. The law that's been trying to operate in your life all along, waiting for you to stop insisting you know better than infinite intelligence. The end of trying. This book isn't going to teach you a new technique. Techniques are just more sophisticated forms of trying. This book is going to systematically dismantle every belief you have about needing to make life work through personal effort and replace it with the lived understanding that life already works perfectly, abundantly, effortlessly when you stop interfering with your limited human will. By the time you finish reading, you won't just understand this intellectually. You'll have experienced it so many times that operating any other way will seem absurd. You'll wonder how you ever believed that your anxious planning was more intelligent than the force that coordinates the 100 trillion cells in your body without your conscious awareness. You'll discover that every spiritual teacher who ever lived was pointing to this same truth. The kingdom of heaven isn't coming. It's here. It's now. It's operating. You just have to stop blocking it with your belief that you're separate from it and need to make things happen through personal force. Welcome to the Great Reversal. Welcome to the end of hustle. Welcome to the power you've always had but never knew how to access. The next chapter will show you exactly why your current operating system fails and how to recognize the moments when infinite intelligence is trying to break through your resistance. But first, do the experiment. Stop trying to solve that one problem. Let the universe show you what it's been trying to deliver all along. Chapter 2. The Anatomy of Resistance. You tried the experiment from Chapter 1. Let me guess what happened. Either something shifted, a small miracle, an unexpected opening, and you immediately thought, coincidence. Or you couldn't actually stop trying. Your mind kept spinning scenarios, making plans, arguing with itself about whether this could really work. Both responses are perfect. They're showing you the exact mechanism that's been running your life. The desperate need to be the one in control. The control illusion. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You've never actually been in control of anything. Not once, not ever. You don't control your heartbeat. You don't control your digestion. You don't control the thousands of chemical reactions happening in your brain right now that allow you to read these words. You don't even control your next thought. It just appears, doesn't it? Yet you've built an entire identity around being the manager of your life, the CEO of your existence, the one who makes things happen through force of will. This isn't your fault. You were trained from birth to believe that effort equals results. Study harder, get better grades, work longer, make more money, push through resistance, achieve your goals. The entire structure of modern society is built on this lie. But notice something. The most important things in your life, falling in love, creative breakthroughs, moments of joy, deep friendships, none of these came from forcing. They arose naturally when conditions were right. You couldn't have manufactured them if you tried. The anxiety operating system. When you run your life from personal will, you're actually operating from the most primitive part of your brain, the fear center that evolved to help our ancestors survive tiger attacks. It's designed for short-term physical threats, not for navigating complex modern life. This is why forcing feels so exhausting. You're using emergency systems for everyday operation. It's like driving your car in first gear on the highway. You'll burn out the engine long before you reach your destination. Every time you feel that familiar tightness in your chest, that sense of, I have to make this work, you're running the anxiety operating system. And here's what it does. Narrows your perception. You literally can't see solutions that are right in front of you. Blocks intuition. The subtle signals from infinite intelligence get drowned out by mental noise. Repels opportunities. People unconsciously avoid anxious energy. It's why forced networking never works. Creates what you fear. The more you grasp, the more things slip through your fingers. The Jacob wrestling match. There's a revealing story I once heard about a business owner named Jacob. He'd been struggling for months to land a major contract that would save his company. He tried everything: presentations, price cuts, executive lunches, even hiring a consultant to perfect his pitch. The night before the final meeting, he couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., exhausted and defeated, something in him surrendered. Not to failure, but to a recognition. I've been trying to force something that either wants to happen or doesn't. If this is meant to be, it will be. If not, something better is waiting. He went to the meeting the next morning with a completely different energy. Instead of his desperate sales pitch, he found himself saying, "You know what? Let me just share why I love what we do." He spoke from genuine enthusiasm, not need. He listened more than he talked. He actually enjoyed the conversation. They signed the contract that day. But here's the kicker. The CEO told him later, "We'd actually decided to go with someone else." But there was something different about you today. You weren't trying to convince us. You were just present, real. That's who we want to work with. Recognizing the real power. So how do you know when infinite intelligence is operating versus when you're forcing from personal will? The signals are unmistakable once you know what to look for. When you're forcing, time seems to drag or race anxiously. Your body is tense, especially your shoulders and jaw. You keep checking and rechecking. You feel exhausted even without physical activity. Solutions feel complicated and require many steps. You need to convince others and yourself. There's a sense of swimming upstream. When infinite intelligence is operating, time seems to flow naturally. Your body is relaxed but alert. You trust the process unfolding. You have energy even after significant activity. Solutions are elegantly simple. Others are naturally drawn to your ideas. There's a sense of being carried by a current. The phone call pattern. Here's a pattern that happens so consistently, it's almost funny. The moment you truly let go of forcing a situation, your phone rings with the solution. I've collected hundreds of these stories. The job offer that comes the day after you genuinely release the job search. The relationship that begins when you truly stop looking. The creative solution that arrives in the shower after you've given up trying to figure it out. This isn't magical thinking. There's a practical explanation. When you stop creating mental static with your forcing, you become receptive to the signals that were always there. The person who was going to call you was already feeling the impulse. The solution was already forming in your subconscious. The opportunity was already moving toward you. Your anxious grasping was the only thing creating interference. The love test. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to let go as a technique to get what they want. Okay, I'll let go so the universe will give me my desire. That's not letting go. That's manipulation in spiritual drag. Real letting go only happens when you touch what I call the love frequency. That state where you genuinely want the highest good for everyone involved, including yourself. You can't fake this. The universe doesn't respond to performance. Try this. Think of someone you love unconditionally, maybe a child, a pet, or a best friend. Feel that quality of love where you just want them to be happy, to thrive, to experience good. You're not trying to control their happiness or take credit for it. You just want it for them. That feeling, that's the frequency infinite intelligence operates on. When you can feel that way about your own life, about your problems, about the people involved in your challenges, you've found the channel. You're no longer trying to force your will. You're aligning with a will that wants the highest good for all. The money meditation murder. Let me be brutally clear about something. This is not about meditation, affirmations, or visualization. In fact, those can become the most sophisticated forms of forcing. I knew a woman who meditated 2 hours a day on abundance. She had vision boards covering her walls. She repeated affirmations until her throat was raw. She was the most spiritually forceful person I'd ever met, and she was broke. Why? Because she was using spiritual techniques to try to force the universe to comply with her will. It was just anxiety dressed up in Sanskrit. The shift I'm talking about is simpler and more radical. Stop trying to manipulate reality entirely. Stop trying to attract, manifest, or create. Instead, recognize that everything you need is already trying to reach you, and your job is to stop blocking it with all your trying, including your spiritual trying. The practical release. So how do you actually let go in the middle of real-life pressure? When bills are due, when deadlines loom, when people are depending on you. Here's the method that works. Step 1. Acknowledge the pressure. Don't spiritual bypass. Yes, this bill is due. Yes, this is scary. Yes, I feel responsible. Step 2. Recognize your limits. I've done everything I know to do from my personal will. If that was going to work, it would have worked by now. Step 3. Touch the truth. There's an intelligence that keeps my heart beating, that turns embryos into humans, that coordinates the cosmos. This intelligence knows my situation and has already set solutions in motion. Step 4. Find the love frequency. What would this look like if I wanted the highest good for everyone involved, including myself? What if this situation is perfectly designed to bring about something better than I can imagine? Step 5. Act from peace. Do what feels natural and unforced. Make the phone call that feels easy. Skip the one that feels like pushing. Follow inspiration, not desperation. The 3-day miracle. Almost everyone who genuinely applies this approach experiences what I call the 3-day miracle. Within 72 hours of truly letting go, not pretending, not performing, but actually releasing, something shifts dramatically. It might be external, unexpected money, a surprise opportunity, a relationship breakthrough, or it might be internal, a profound peace, a creative insight, a healing of an old pattern. Usually, it's both. This isn't because you've earned it or attracted it. It's because you've stopped blocking what was always trying to happen. Your next experiment. For the next 3 days, practice catching yourself in the act of forcing. Every time you feel that familiar push, that "I have to make this happen" energy, stop. Take a breath. Remember that infinite intelligence is already handling it. Then ask yourself, what would I do right now if I knew everything was already working out perfectly? And do that. Not what you should do, not what you're afraid not to do. What you would do if you genuinely trusted that a loving intelligence was orchestrating everything for the highest good. Watch what happens, document it. Because what you're about to experience will shatter your belief in the necessity of personal force forever. The next chapter will reveal why most of what you call problems aren't problems at all. They're perfectly designed situations to deliver something you couldn't have planned for yourself. Chapter 3. The gift of every problem. Right now, you're facing something that feels like a problem. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart. Maybe it's a health crisis, a career dead end, or a decision that feels impossible to make. What if that problem isn't a problem at all? What if it's a perfectly designed delivery system for something you couldn't have gotten any other way? The bankruptcy that made him rich. Thomas had built his company for 15 years. It was his identity, his pride, his proof that he mattered. When the 2008 crisis hit, he fought like a drowning man. He liquidated his retirement, borrowed from family, worked 20-hour days. Nothing helped. The bankruptcy was inevitable. The day he signed the papers, he felt like he was signing his death certificate. Everything he'd worked for, gone. He was 53 years old, starting from zero. But something strange happened in the weeks that followed. Without the constant stress of trying to save the unsavable, he started sleeping again. His wife said he laughed for the first time in 2 years. His kids actually wanted to spend time with him. Then came the phone call. An old colleague had started a new venture and remembered Thomas's expertise in an area he'd never monetized because he was too busy with his real business. "I know things are tough, but would you consider consulting for us?" Just a few hours a week. Those few hours turned into a new career that paid 3 times what his old business ever had. More importantly, it used talents he'd buried under 15 years of doing what he thought he should do instead of what he was born to do. The bankruptcy wasn't a disaster, he told me later. It was a rescue mission. I was drowning in my success. What looked like failure was actually infinite intelligence, prying my desperate fingers off a life that was killing me. The redirection principle. Here's what actually happens with every problem. It's not an obstacle to your good. It's the mechanism through which your good is being delivered. Think about how a GPS works. When you're headed the wrong direction, it doesn't judge you or panic. It simply says recalculating and finds a new route. Sometimes, that new route is actually faster than your original path. Sometimes, it takes you through scenery you would have missed. Sometimes, it saves you from an accident you never knew was ahead. Your problems are the universe's recalculating message. They're not punishments. They're course corrections towards something better than you were aiming for. But here's the crucial part. You can only receive the gift of the problem when you stop fighting the redirect. The illness illumination. Sandra was 34 when the diagnosis came. Autoimmune condition, chronic, progressive. The doctors gave her a list of everything she'd have to give up. Her high-stress job, her marathon running, her push-through-everything approach to life. She fought it for a year, tried to maintain her old life through sheer will. The illness got worse. Finally, depleted beyond measure, she surrendered, not to being sick, but to the possibility that this illness might be trying to tell her something. I started listening to my body for the first time in my life, she said, not just to the illness, but to what it had been trying to tell me for years, that I was living someone else's definition of success, that I was proving my worth through exhaustion, that I'd never once asked myself what I actually wanted. As she stopped fighting and started listening, something shifted, not just physically, though her symptoms did improve dramatically, but in her entire orientation to life. She left the corporate job and started teaching yoga. She wrote the book she'd been too busy to write for a decade. She met her husband in a support group she would never have joined if she'd stayed healthy. The illness wasn't the problem, she told me. The life I was living was the problem. The illness was the solution. It was the only thing powerful enough to stop me from destroying myself with achievement. Problems as portals. Every problem has the same anatomy, the surface story, what seems to be wrong, the resistance layer, your fight against what's happening, the gift core, what's actually trying to emerge. Most people never get past the resistance layer. They exhaust themselves fighting the surface story, never discovering that the problem itself is a doorway. When you stop resisting and start exploring, you find that every problem is actually asking you a question. What if this is happening for you, not to you? The relationship revelation. Mark's marriage was ending. 20 years, 2 kids, and suddenly his wife said she was done. He cycled through all the classic responses: bargaining, therapy, grand gestures, anger, desperation. Nothing worked. She moved out. In his devastation, something cracked open. For the first time in 20 years, he had to face himself without the identity of husband to hide behind. And what he found shocked him. He didn't actually know who he was. He'd been performing good husband for so long, he'd lost contact with his actual self. The divorce proceedings took a year. During that time, without trying to win her back, without trying to punish her, he used the space to discover who he actually was. He started painting again, something he'd given up because it wasn't practical. He reconnected with friends he'd lost touch with. He learned to cook, to be alone, to enjoy his own company. By the time the divorce was final, something unexpected had happened. His ex-wife, watching his transformation, suggested they try dating again. "You're becoming the person I fell in love with 20 years ago," she said. "The person you stopped being when you started trying so hard to be a good husband." They remarried 2 years later, but here's what Mark told me. Even if we hadn't gotten back together, the divorce would still have been the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop performing my life and start living it. The problem recognition protocol. When a problem arises, here's how to find the gift inside it. First, stop the story. Your mind will immediately create a narrative. This is terrible because... Stop. That story is based on the assumption that you know what's supposed to happen. You don't? Second, feel the redirection. There's always a place in your life where you've been forcing, where you've been out of alignment with your true nature. The problem is pointing directly at it. What have you been refusing to see? Third, ask the gift question. If this problem is actually a solution to something I couldn't see, What is it solving? Fourth, follow the ease. The gift always reveals itself through what becomes easier. Maybe you can finally stop pretending. Maybe you can admit what you really want. Maybe you can let go of a burden you didn't realize you were carrying. The success trap. Here's something nobody talks about. Success can be a bigger problem than failure when it's the wrong success. I've watched dozens of people achieve exactly what they aimed for, only to discover they'd been aiming at the wrong target. The successful business that chains you to work you hate. The perfect relationship that requires you to be someone you're not. The dream home that becomes a prison of maintenance and mortgage. These successes often require a proportional problem to break their spell. The heart attack that frees you from the corner office. The affair that ends the suffocating marriage. The bankruptcy that liberates you from golden handcuffs. This isn't punishment, it's liberation. The problem is infinite intelligence's way of saying, you're worth more than this compromise. Let me show you what you're really capable of. The chronic pattern breaker. Some of you have the same problem recurring in different forms, the same relationship dynamic with different people, the same financial crisis with different numbers, the same health issue with different symptoms. Recurring problems are like a persistent teacher who won't let you graduate until you learn the lesson. And the lesson is always the same. There's some way you're violating your own nature, forcing yourself to be what you're not. That creates the same distortion wherever you go. The gift of the recurring problem is that it won't let you get away with the lie anymore. It keeps breaking down your false structures until you're willing to build something true. Your problem inventory. Take inventory of your current problems, list them, then next to each one, write, what forcing or false identity is this problem interrupting? If this problem is a redirection, where might it be redirecting me toward? What becomes easier if I stop fighting this? Don't try to positive think your way through this. Be honest. Sometimes the gift is simply, this is showing me I can survive what I thought would kill me. Sometimes it's, this is freeing me from a commitment I should never have made. The ultimate reframe. The shift I'm inviting you to make is this. Stop seeing problems as things going wrong and start seeing them as things going right in ways you don't understand yet. This isn't spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. You don't have to like what's happening. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. You just have to be willing to consider that infinite intelligence might know something you don't about what you actually need. When you make this shift, problems stop being enemies and become allies. They're not blocking your path. They are your path. They're not preventing your good. They're delivering it in packaging you didn't expect. The next chapter will show you exactly how to recognize when infinite intelligence is speaking to you through intuition, synchronicity, and what I call the miraculous ordinary. Chapter 4, The Language of the Universe. You're sitting in traffic, frustrated, late for a meeting that could change everything. Then your phone rings. The meeting's been canceled. The client had an emergency. 3 hours later, you find out that if you'd made that meeting, you would have signed a contract that would have bankrupted you within 6 months. The client's company was hiding massive debts. The emergency that canceled your meeting was federal agents arriving with subpoenas. Was that traffic jam random? Or was infinite intelligence speaking to you in the only language you couldn't argue with, circumstance? The communication problem. Here's your challenge. Infinite intelligence is constantly communicating with you, but it doesn't speak in words. It speaks in feelings, timing, seeming coincidences, and what appears to be ordinary life unfolding. You've been trained to ignore this language, to override your instincts with logic, to push through resistance, to dismiss coincidences, to explain away the miraculous as mundane. But what if every delay, every closed door, every chance encounter is actually communication from an intelligence that sees the whole picture while you're only seeing one frame. The body compass. Your body knows things your mind hasn't figured out yet. It's connected to infinite intelligence through channels your conscious mind can't access. Rebecca was offered her dream job. Everything about it looked perfect on paper. The salary, the title, the company reputation. But every time she thought about accepting, her stomach clenched, just slightly. So slightly she almost ignored it. She'd learned to pay attention to these signals, so she asked for a week to decide. During that week, she couldn't shake the physical discomfort. Her logical mind had no explanation, but her body was insistent. Something was off. She declined the offer. Her friends thought she was insane. 6 months later, the company was raided. The executives she would have been working directly under were arrested for fraud. Everyone who joined in the previous year was implicated in the investigation, their careers destroyed by association. My body knew, she told me. Somehow, it knew what my mind couldn't possibly have known. The intuition channel. Intuition isn't mystical. It's your consciousness picking up on patterns too subtle for your logical mind to process. It's the same faculty that lets you know someone's mood the instant they walk in the room, before they've said a word. But here's what blocks intuition: the noise of forcing. When you're desperately trying to make something happen, you create so much mental static that the subtle signals can't get through. It's like trying to hear someone whisper while you're shouting. The formula is simple. Forcing equals static equals no intuition. Allowing equals quiet equals clear intuition. The yes-no body test. Here's a practical tool you can use immediately. Your body has a binary response system that's incredibly accurate once you learn to read it. Think about something you absolutely love. Maybe your favorite food, place, or person. Notice what happens in your body. There's an opening, a lightness, a subtle leaning forward. That's your body's yes. Now think about something you genuinely dislike. Notice the contraction, the heaviness, the subtle pulling back. That's your body's no. These signals are always present, commenting on every decision, every person you meet, every opportunity that presents itself. But they're subtle. You have to quiet the mental noise to feel them. Synchronicity versus coincidence. Carl Jung called it synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and they call that day. You need exactly $1,847 for a car repair, and a forgotten check arrives for $1,850. The skeptic says, coincidence, confirmation bias. You're just noticing patterns that aren't there. But what if the skeptic has it backwards? What if these aren't random events that seem meaningful, but meaningful events that seem random to minds trained to see separation where there's actually connection? The phone call phenomenon. I've documented this pattern hundreds of times. The moment you truly release a problem, your phone rings with the solution. This isn't selective memory. There's a practical explanation. When you stop creating interference with your forcing, you become receptive to connections that were already trying to form. The person calling was already feeling the impulse. You just became available to receive it. Think about your own experience. Haven't you had the impulse to call someone, ignored it, then found out later they needed exactly what you could offer at that moment? That's infinite intelligence trying to coordinate through you, but it can only work when both parties are receptive. The miraculous ordinary. The most profound communications from infinite intelligence often come through absolutely ordinary events. The book that falls off the shelf open to the exact passage you needed. The wrong turn that leads you past the for rent sign on your perfect apartment. The flight delay that puts you next to someone who becomes your business partner. The sold-out event that has one ticket become available the moment you decide to go. These aren't miracles in the supernatural sense. They're the natural result of an interconnected universe where infinite intelligence is constantly orchestrating outcomes for the highest good of all involved. The 3 types of guidance. Infinite intelligence communicates through 3 primary channels. 1. The full body yes. When something is aligned with your highest good, your entire being knows it. Not just your mind, but your body, your emotions, your energy. Everything says yes simultaneously. There's no internal argument, no convincing needed. You just know. 2. The persistent nudge. Some guidance comes as a recurring thought or feeling that won't leave you alone. Call Jennifer. Take that class. Apply for that position. It's gentle but insistent, like a friend tapping you on the shoulder. 3. The sacred. Sometimes the clearest guidance is what won't work. Doors that won't open no matter how hard you push. Calls that don't get returned. Deals that fall through at the last second. These aren't failures. They're protection from paths that weren't meant for you. Reading the signs. People always ask, how do I know if it's real guidance or just my imagination? Here's how to tell. Real guidance feels calm even when suggesting big changes, persists without anxiety, often suggests something you wouldn't have thought of, leads to outcomes that benefit everyone involved, gets stronger when you're relaxed. Mental noise feels urgent and anxious, changes constantly, usually involves getting something from someone, benefits you at others' expense, gets louder when you're stressed. The breadcrumb trail. Infinite intelligence rarely shows you the whole path. Instead, it gives you the next step, then the next, then the next, like following breadcrumbs through a forest. This frustrates people who want the full map, the 5-year plan, the guaranteed outcome. But there's wisdom in the breadcrumb approach. If you saw the whole path, you might be too overwhelmed to take the first step. Or you might think you know better and try to shortcut the journey, missing crucial developments along the way. Michael was a surgeon who kept feeling nudged to take a pottery class. It made no logical sense. He had no interest in pottery, but the nudge persisted for months. Finally, he signed up, mostly to make the nagging feeling stop. In the class, he met a woman who mentioned her brother was looking for a surgeon with exactly Michael's specialization for a revolutionary new clinic. That connection led to Michael completely reinventing his practice in ways he never could have imagined. If infinite intelligence had said, "Take a pottery class to transform your medical career," I would have thought it was insane, he said. But by just showing me the next step, it got me where I needed to go. The practice of listening. For the next week, practice this. Before making any decision, what to eat, which route to take, who to call, pause. Take 3 breaths, feel into your body. Notice the subtle yes or no, then follow it even if it doesn't make logical sense. Document what happens. You'll discover that your body intuition complex has an intelligence that your logical mind can't access. It knows things about timing, about people, about opportunities that shouldn't be knowable. This isn't about becoming passive or thoughtless. It's about adding a dimension of intelligence to your decision-making that you've been trained to ignore. The ultimate recognition. Here's what you'll discover as you learn to read the language of the universe. You're not separate from infinite intelligence, receiving messages from outside yourself. You are an expression of infinite intelligence, and these communications are your deeper self guiding your surface self. The intuition, the synchronicities, the miraculous ordinary, they're not external signs. They're your true nature, breaking through the static of your conditioned mind. The next chapter will show you exactly how to dissolve the single biggest block to receiving your good, the belief that you have to deserve it. Chapter 5, The Deserving Delusion. You're about to discover why everything you've been taught about deserving success, love, or abundance is backwards, and why this misconception is the single biggest block to receiving what's already trying to reach you. The merit myth. Since childhood, you've been programmed with a simple equation. Good behavior equals rewards. Bad behavior equals punishment. Study hard, get the grade. Work hard, get the promotion. Be a good person, get good things. This seems logical, fair. It gives you a sense of control. It's also completely false. Look around. Do the best people you know have the best lives? Does virtue guarantee success? Does hard work always pay off? Of course not. You know brilliant, kind, hard-working people who struggle. You know mediocre, selfish people who thrive. The universe doesn't operate on a merit system. It operates on principles that have nothing to do with deserving. The sunlight principle. Does the sun ask if you deserve its warmth before shining on you? Does gravity check your moral credit score before keeping you on the ground? Does your heart verify your worthiness before beating? The fundamental forces of the universe operate unconditionally. They don't care about your past, your mistakes, your achievements, or your character. They simply operate. The same is true for the organizing intelligence that wants to deliver your good. It's not withholding anything because you're not good enough. You're withholding it from yourself with your belief that you need to earn it. The worthiness wound. Everyone carries what I call the worthiness wound, some version of I'm not enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not spiritual enough. This wound becomes the filter through which you interpret everything. When good things happen, you think, finally, I've earned it. When bad things happen, you think, I knew I didn't deserve better. But here's the truth that changes everything. The universe doesn't traffic in deserving. It traffics in allowing. The child example? Watch a baby. Does it wonder if it deserves milk? Does it question its worthiness for comfort, attention, love? No. It simply expects its needs to be met, and they are. The baby hasn't earned anything. It hasn't proven itself. It hasn't achieved worthiness. It simply exists in a state of natural receptivity. You were born in this state. Then you were taught that you had to earn everything: love, success, happiness, even the right to exist without anxiety. You learn to perform for your worth. The performance prison. Lisa spent 40 years trying to deserve love. She was the perfect daughter, the straight A student, the accommodating wife, the supermom, the reliable employee. She gave until she had nothing left to give. Then her husband left anyway, for someone younger. In her devastation, something shattered. Not just her heart, but her entire operating system. I did everything right, she told me. I was everything everyone wanted me to be, and it meant nothing. That's when she discovered the truth. She'd been performing for love that was already hers by birthright. The performance hadn't earned her anything. It had actually blocked her from receiving real love by attracting people who were attracted to her performance, not her truth. When she stopped performing and started being, something remarkable happened. People were drawn to her authenticity. She found love, real love, with someone who wanted her, not her performance. But more importantly, she found that she didn't need to deserve love. She was love. The abundance equation. Here's what actually determines what you receive. It's not worthiness plus effort equals receiving. It's awareness plus allowing equals receiving. You don't need to deserve abundance. You need to stop blocking it with your belief that you don't deserve it. The money worthiness trap. Nothing triggers worthiness wounds like money. People will say, I don't deserve that much, or who am I to charge that? Or I haven't earned the right to abundance. But money isn't a reward from the universe for being good. It's a tool, like electricity or water. Does electricity ask if you deserve light before flowing through your lamps? Does water check your virtue before quenching your thirst? Money flows where it's allowed to flow, period. Your worthiness or unworthiness has nothing to do with it. The receiving practice. Here's an experiment that will rewire your relationship with deserving. For 1 week, receive everything that comes to you without explaining why you deserve it. Someone compliments you, just say, "Thank you." Don't deflect or diminish. Someone offers help, accept it without explaining why you need it. Money comes, receive it without justifying it. Notice how uncomfortable this makes you. Notice the urge to explain, to justify, to prove you've earned it. That discomfort is showing you exactly where you're blocking your good with the deserving delusion. The grace channel. What if everything good that comes to you is grace, unearned, undeserved, freely given simply because you exist? This isn't about being passive or entitled. It's about recognizing that the universe operates on grace, not merit. The rain falls on everyone. The sun shines on everyone. Infinite intelligence wants to give to everyone. The only variable is who's allowing themselves to receive. The worthiness flip. Here's the radical reframe. Instead of trying to become worthy of receiving good, recognize that receiving good is what makes you feel worthy. You've had it backwards. You thought, when I'm worthy enough, I'll receive. The truth is, when I receive, I'll remember my worth. The permission slip. Right now, in this moment, I'm giving you permission to receive everything good that wants to come to you, regardless of whether you've earned it. You don't need this permission. You already have it by virtue of existing. But sometimes we need someone to say it out loud. You are allowed to receive love you haven't earned. You are allowed to receive money you don't deserve. You are allowed to receive opportunities you haven't worked for. You are allowed to receive healing you can't explain. You are allowed to receive joy without reason. The ultimate freedom. When you release the need to deserve, something extraordinary happens. You stop performing. You stop exhausting yourself trying to earn what's already yours. You stop the endless treadmill of proving your worth. And in that stopping, you become receptive to a flow of good that has nothing to do with your deserving and everything to do with your allowing. The next chapter will reveal the practical method for living from this new operating system, what I call the daily practice of allowance. Chapter 6, the daily practice of allowance. You wake up. Before your feet hit the floor, the forcing begins. Mental lists, anxious planning, the familiar tightness of, I have to make today work. What if you started differently? What if your first conscious act each day was to remember that infinite intelligence has already arranged everything that needs to happen today, and your only job is to not interfere? The morning realignment. Here's the practice that changes everything. It takes 3 minutes. It requires nothing but your attention, and it sets the entire day on a different trajectory. Before you check your phone, before you review your schedule, before the anxiety kicks in, do this. Minute 1, recognition. There's an intelligence that kept me alive all night without my conscious participation. It regulated my breathing, my heartbeat, my cellular repair, my brain's memory consolidation. This same intelligence is already orchestrating my entire day. Minute 2. Release. I release my need to force outcomes today. I release my belief that I'm alone in figuring this out. I release the exhausting illusion that everything depends on my personal effort. Minute 3. Reception. I'm available to receive all the good that's already in motion toward me. I'm willing to act on inspiration rather than desperation. I trust that everything I need will be shown to me at the perfect moment. That's it. Don't make it complicated. Don't turn it into a performance. Just acknowledge release, receive. The 10 a.m. check-in. By 10 a.m., you've usually fallen back into forcing. It's inevitable. You've been practicing it for decades. The key isn't to never fall back, but to catch yourself quickly. Set a reminder. When it goes off, ask yourself, am I forcing or flowing right now? Is my body tense or relaxed? Am I acting from inspiration or desperation? If you're forcing, take 30 seconds to realign. Remember, infinite intelligence is handling this. Your forcing is just interference. The decision protocol. Every decision point is an opportunity to practice allowance. Should you make this call, send this email, take this meeting instead of pros and cons lists? Try this. Step 1, get quiet. 3 breaths. Step 2, feel into each option. Not think, feel. Your body knows. Step 3, choose what feels lighter, easier, more natural. Step 4, act without second guessing. This isn't about being impulsive or irresponsible. It's about recognizing that your deeper intelligence, the part connected to infinite intelligence, knows things your logical mind can't compute. The email experiment. Here's something specific you can try today. Write your emails from allowance instead of force. Before you write, pause. Feel into what wants to be communicated, not what you think you should say. Let the words come from a place of ease rather than effort. You'll notice something immediately. These emails get better responses. They land differently. They create connection instead of transaction. People can feel the difference between forced communication and allowed communication, even if they can't name it. The money flow practice. Money is where most people's allowing breaks down completely. They grasp, they panic, they force, and in doing so, they create the very scarcity they're trying to avoid. Try this for 1 month. Morning. Infinite intelligence knows my financial needs and has already set in motion everything required to meet them. When bills arrive, this bill is evidence that I've already received value. Payment is just completing the circle. When money comes, this is infinite intelligence flowing to me through this channel. There's always more where this came from. Before bed, I release all money anxiety to infinite intelligence. Tomorrow's provision is already arranged. Don't do this as an affirmation to convince yourself. Do it as a reminder of what's actually true. The relationship allowance. Stop trying to make people love you, understand you, or treat you right. Instead, allow relationships to reveal themselves. When you're with someone, practice this. Release your agenda for the interaction. Stop performing your personality. Let conversation flow naturally. Trust that what needs to be communicated will be. You'll discover that when you stop forcing connections, real connection happens naturally. When you stop performing for love, love finds you. The problem-solving protocol. When a problem arises, our default is to immediately attack it with mental force. We strategize, worry, plan, scheme. Try this instead. Hour 1. Do nothing. Let the problem exist without your interference. Hour 2. Ask, what if this problem is solving itself right now? Hour 3. Take only the action that feels natural and easy. 9 times out of 10, the problem either solves itself or reveals its own solution without your forcing. The 10th time, you'll know exactly what to do because the forcing energy has cleared. The evening release. Before sleep, you have the opportunity to release the entire day and reset for tomorrow. This isn't about reviewing what went wrong or planning what's next. It's about returning to the state of allowance. I released today completely. Whatever seemed to go wrong was actually going right in ways I don't yet understand. Whatever seemed unfinished is exactly where it needs to be. Tomorrow is already perfectly arranged. I rest in this knowing. Then actually rest. Don't lie there planning. Trust that infinite intelligence is working the night shift, arranging tomorrow's miracles while you sleep. The results timeline. Here's what happens when you practice allowance consistently. Week 1, you'll catch yourself forcing constantly. This is good. Awareness is the first step. Week 2, you'll have moments of genuine allowing. Small miracles will occur. You'll start to see the correlation. Week 3, the forcing will feel increasingly uncomfortable. You'll catch yourself faster. Solutions will come more easily. Week 4, allowing will start to feel natural. You'll wonder why you ever thought forcing was necessary. Month 2, your entire life begins reorganizing itself around this new operating system. Things that weren't working fade away. Things that belong in your life magnetize toward you. Month 3, you look back and can't believe you used to live any other way. The social challenge. The hardest part of living from allowance isn't the practice itself. It's dealing with a world that glorifies forcing. People will say, you have to hustle. Nothing comes without hard work. You're being passive. You need to be more aggressive. Smile, nod, then watch as your allowance creates results that their forcing never could. You don't need to convince anyone. Your life will be the proof. The ultimate recognition. As you practice daily allowance, you'll discover something profound. You're not learning something new. You're remembering something you've always known. Before you were taught to force, you knew how to allow. Watch children play. They don't force fun, they allow it. Watch artists create. The best work comes not from forcing, but from allowing expression to flow through them. You're returning to your natural state. And from this state, everything you've been forcing towards begins flowing to you. The next chapter will address the biggest fear people have about allowing. But what if nothing happens? Chapter 7, When Nothing Happens. Here's the fear that's probably creeping in. What if I stop forcing and nothing happens? What if I allow and nothing comes? Let's address this directly, because this fear is both completely understandable and based on a misunderstanding of what allowing actually means. The nothing myth. First, let's be clear, nothing never happens. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, something is always in motion. Seeds germinate underground long before you see the sprout. Deals develop through invisible conversations before they reach you. Your body repairs itself through processes you never notice. When people say, nothing is happening, they usually mean, the specific thing I want isn't happening on my timeline. The active part of allowing. Here's what many people miss. Allowing isn't passive. It's not sitting on your couch waiting for magic. It's a different kind of action that emerges from alignment rather than anxiety. When you truly allow, you still show up to work, answer emails, meet responsibilities, take opportunities. The difference is the energy behind these actions. You're moving with the current instead of against it. You're responding to what is rather than forcing what isn't. The Tom story. Tom quit his corporate job to start his own business. He'd read about allowing, about not forcing, about trusting the universe. So he did what he thought that meant. He stopped everything. No networking, no marketing, no outreach. He just meditated and waited for abundance. 3 months later, broke and bitter, he decided allowing was nonsense. But Tom had misunderstood. Allowing doesn't mean no action. It means aligned action. It means doing what feels natural and inspired rather than what feels forced and desperate. When Tom went back to building his business, but from this new understanding, everything changed. He still made calls, but only to people he genuinely wanted to connect with. He still marketed, but by sharing what excited him rather than selling from need. Within 6 months, his business was thriving. The timing truth. Sometimes, what looks like nothing happening is actually perfect timing. You can't see yet. Jennifer applied for her dream job. She was perfect for it. The interviews went brilliantly. Then, silence. Weeks of silence. She was devastated. 6 months later, the company called. The position had been put on hold due to restructuring. Now they were ready, and she was their first choice. But here's the key. In those 6 months, Jennifer had taken a course that gave her exactly the skills the restructured position required. If she'd gotten the job immediately, she would have failed. The delay wasn't nothing happening. It was perfect orchestration. The preparation phase. Often, when it seems like nothing is happening externally, everything is happening internally. You're being prepared for what's coming. Your consciousness is being upgraded to handle what you've asked for. Think about it. If massive success came before you were ready for it, it would destroy you. Look at lottery winners who lose everything within years. Look at overnight successes who can't handle the pressure. The nothing happening phase is often infinite intelligence, preparing you to receive and sustain what's coming. The clearing process. Sometimes allowing reveals what needs to be cleared before your good can come. This can feel like things getting worse before they get better. When Sarah stopped forcing her business to work, several clients immediately left. It felt like allowing had backfired. But those were the exact clients who were draining her energy and underpaying for her services. Their departure made room for better clients who appeared within weeks. What looked like loss was actually making space. The honest assessment. Let's be honest about something. Sometimes when you stop forcing and nothing happens, it's because what you were forcing toward was never meant for you. The relationship that won't solidify, no matter how available you make yourself, maybe it's not meant to be. The business that won't thrive, no matter how hard you work, maybe you're meant for something different. The problem that won't resolve, no matter how much you strategize, maybe it's redirecting you towards something better. Nothing happening is sometimes infinite intelligence's way of saying, not this way, or not this thing, or not yet. The fear behind the fear. The real fear isn't that nothing will happen. The real fear is that you'll have to face the truth. Much of your forcing has been keeping you busy to avoid feeling deeper things. Uncertainty, vulnerability, the fear that you're not in control, which you never were anyway. When you stop forcing and sit with what is, these feelings surface. This isn't nothing happening. This is everything happening. All the processing you've been avoiding through constant action. The practical middle path. Here's the balanced truth. Allowing doesn't mean no action, but it also doesn't mean forced action with spiritual language painted over it. The practice is to take obvious, natural actions. Pay your bills, show up to work, respond to opportunities. Release attachment to outcomes. Stay open to unexpected directions. Trust that if something requires forcing, it's probably not the path. When to act, when to wait. How do you know when to act versus when to wait? Your body tells you time to act. The action feels natural, obvious. Your body has energy for it. Doors open easily. You feel inspired rather than desperate. Time to wait. Everything feels forced. Your body is exhausted. Doors stay closed despite pushing. You feel desperate rather than inspired. The 30-day reality check. If you're afraid nothing will happen, try this 30-day experiment. Continue taking all obvious, natural actions in your life, but release all forced, anxious, desperate actions. Do what feels easy and skip what feels hard. Document everything. You'll likely discover the forced actions weren't producing results anyway. The natural actions produce better results with less effort. New opportunities appear that you couldn't have planned. You have more energy for what matters. The ultimate trust. The fear that nothing will happen is really a fear that you're not held by something greater than your own effort. It's the fear that if you stop controlling, you'll fall. But here's what everyone who genuinely practices allowing discovers. You are held. Not by a mystical force that requires belief, but by the same intelligence that keeps planets in orbit and cells dividing. The question isn't whether this intelligence exists. It obviously does, or you wouldn't be alive to read this. The question is whether you trust it with your daily life the way you already trust it with your heartbeat. The next chapter reveals what happens when allowing becomes your default state, when miracles become ordinary. Chapter 8, The Miraculous Normal. After 3 months of practicing allowance, David couldn't remember what anxiety felt like. This wasn't spiritual bypassing or denial. He simply no longer operated from that frequency. I was at the grocery store, he told me, when I realized I hadn't worried about money in weeks. Not because I suddenly had millions, but because every time I needed something, it appeared. A client would call, a refund would arrive, an opportunity would present itself. It had become so normal that I'd stopped noticing it as miraculous. This is what happens when you fully shift from forcing to allowing. The miraculous becomes normal, and the normal becomes miraculous. The new normal. When you live from allowing, certain things become everyday occurrences. You think of someone and they contact you within hours. You need a specific amount of money and it arrives from unexpected sources. Problems solve themselves while you sleep. The right people appear at the perfect moment. Information you need finds its way to you without searching. Your body heals things that should take weeks and days. These aren't special events anymore. They're Tuesday. The perception shift. What changes isn't that miracles start happening. They were always happening. What changes is your ability to see them and your capacity to receive them. It's like tuning a radio. The music was always broadcasting, but you were tuned to static. Now you're on the right frequency, and the music is clear. Lisa, a teacher, put it this way: I used to see obstacles everywhere. Now I see invitations. Every problem is an invitation to witness infinite intelligence at work. Every need is an invitation to receive. Every interaction is an invitation to allow love to flow through me. The parking space phenomenon. It starts with small things, parking spaces. That's often the first place people notice the shift. I never look for parking anymore, Sarah laughed. I just know one will be there, and it always is. Right in front, usually. My friends think I'm lucky, but it's not luck. It's just that I'm not creating resistance with anxiety about finding a space. This seems trivial, but it's not. It's the beginning of understanding that infinite intelligence handles small things and big things with equal ease. If it can arrange a parking space, it can arrange anything. The money flow reality. When allowing becomes your default, money behaves differently. It stops being something you chase and becomes something that flows to you as needed. Mark, a freelance designer, describes it. I stopped tracking income obsessively. I stopped panicking about slow periods. I just did the work that felt right and trusted that compensation would follow. Now money comes from directions I never expected. Old clients suddenly need updates. New opportunities appear out of nowhere. I make more than I ever did when I was desperately hustling, and I work half the hours. This isn't about becoming careless with money. It's about recognizing that money, like everything else, responds to allowing rather than grasping. The relationship revolution. When you stop forcing in relationships, something beautiful happens. The right people magnetize toward you, while the wrong ones naturally fade away. I stopped trying to make people like me, Jennifer said. I stopped performing, pleasing, convincing. I just started being myself fully. Some people disappeared from my life, people I'd been exhausting myself trying to keep. But new people appeared. People who actually liked me, not my performance. My relationships became effortless for the first time in my life. The health coherence. Your body, freed from the constant stress of forcing, begins to remember how to heal itself. My chronic back pain disappeared, Tom reported. Not from treatment. I'd tried everything. It disappeared when I stopped fighting against my life, when I stopped the constant tension of trying to force outcomes. My body just released. 20 years of pain, gone in 2 weeks. This isn't to say allowing cures everything, but the stress of constant forcing creates more physical problems than we realize. When that stress dissolves, the body's natural healing capacity activates the creative flow. Artists and writers often discover allowing first, though they might not call it that. They know the difference between forced creation and inspired creation. When I stopped trying to write and started allowing writing to happen through me, everything changed, novelist Rachel explained. I went from struggling to produce 500 words a day to flowing 3,000 words without effort. The stories write themselves. I'm just the typist. The business breakthrough. Companies run on allowing operate differently than those run on force. Michael transformed his tech startup when he shifted to allowing. We stopped having those exhausting strategy sessions where we tried to force innovation. Instead, we created space for inspiration. We'd pose a question to the team and then wait. Let it percolate. The solutions that emerged were always better than anything we could have forced. Our development time dropped by 60%. Our customer satisfaction soared. The time expansion. One of the strangest aspects of living from allowing, you seem to have more time. I do less but accomplish more, Anna observed. It's like time expands when you're not forcing. Things that used to take hours now take minutes. Not because I'm rushing, but because I'm flowing. I'm working with natural timing instead of against it. The ripple effect. When you live from allowing, it affects everyone around you, not through preaching or convincing, but through resonance. My kids changed, David noticed. I didn't tell them about allowing. But they started flowing more naturally. Less struggle with homework, less drama with friends. They were picking up on my new frequency and matching it. Your allowing gives others permission to allow. Your ease makes ease possible for them. Without saying a word, you become a healing presence. The challenge of success. Here's something nobody mentions. When allowing becomes normal, you might face a strange challenge, the discomfort of everything working. I actually had to adjust to not having problems, Karen admitted. My identity had been so wrapped up in overcoming obstacles that when they stopped appearing, I didn't know who I was. I had to find a new identity based on creation rather than struggle. Maintaining the flow. How do you maintain this state? 3 practices. Daily realignment. Every morning, consciously choose allowing over forcing. It takes 10 seconds but sets the entire day. Grateful noticing, acknowledge the miracles, even when they've become normal. Thank you for the parking space. Thank you for the unexpected check. Thank you for the perfect timing. Gentle return. When you fall back into forcing, and you will, gently return to allowing without self-judgment. It's not a failure, it's just a reminder. The ultimate ordinary. The final stage of living from allowing is when you stop seeing it as special. It's just how life works. You don't talk about it much because it would be like talking about breathing. Necessary, natural, unremarkable. But you remember what forcing felt like, and you have deep compassion for those still trapped in that exhausting cycle. You help when asked. but mostly you just live your miraculous normal life, knowing that your example is more powerful than any words. The next chapter addresses the question everyone asks: how do I explain this to others? Chapter 9. Living among the forcers. You've shifted. The people around you haven't. This creates a unique challenge. How do you live from allowing in a world built on forcing? Your spouse still believes in grinding. Your boss demands hustle. Your friends think you've lost your mind. Your parents worry you've joined a cult. Welcome to the integration phase, where your new operating system meets the old world. The preaching problem. Your first instinct will be to share this with everyone. Don't. Nothing repels people faster than unsolicited spiritual advice. Nothing creates more resistance than telling someone they're doing life wrong. Nothing fails more completely than trying to force people to stop forcing. Robert learned this the hard way. I was so excited about allowing that I became evangelical about it. I corrected everyone. "You're forcing," became my catchphrase. I was forcing non-forcing on people. The irony was lost on me until my wife threatened divorce if I didn't shut up about it. The silent demonstration. The most powerful teaching is living proof. When your life starts working with unusual ease, people notice. When you're calm in chaos, they wonder. When solutions find you, they ask. That's your opening, not before. I wait for the question now, says Maria. When someone says, "You seem different," or "How are you so calm?" or "Things always work out for you," then I might share. But even then, just a taste. People can only hear what they're ready to hear. The translation challenge. Most people can't hear infinite intelligence without thinking you've gone off the deep end. So learn to translate. Instead of, "I'm allowing infinite intelligence to handle it," say, "I'm not stressing about it." Instead of, "The universe is orchestrating this," say, "It'll work out." Instead of, "I'm following my intuition," say, "It feels like the right move." You're not lying. You're speaking in language that can be received. The workplace paradox. Here's what confuses people. When you stop forcing at work, you often become more productive, not less. Jennifer runs a marketing department. My team couldn't understand why I stopped having emergency meetings, stopped the panic deadlines, stopped the weekend emails. They were sure we'd fall behind. Instead, our output increased 40%. Our creativity soared. Our client satisfaction hit record highs. Now they don't care what I call it. They just want me to keep doing it. The relationship navigation. Intimate relationships are where this gets most challenging. Your partner might feel abandoned when you stop engaging in mutual anxiety. They might interpret your peace as not caring. My husband thought I'd stopped loving him, Sarah recalls. We used to bond over worry. We'd spend hours strategizing about problems, catastrophizing together. When I stopped participating in that dance, he felt alone. I had to show him that my calm didn't mean I didn't care. It meant I cared enough to hold peace for both of us. The money conversations. Nothing triggers people like watching you be relaxed about money when they think you should be panicking. My family staged an intervention, Tom laughs. I'd left my corporate job, wasn't frantically job hunting, seemed completely at peace. They were sure I was having a breakdown. I couldn't explain that opportunities were already lining up. I just had to weather their fear until the evidence spoke for itself. The health boundaries. When you're allowing healing rather than forcing treatment, people get uncomfortable. This is where you need clear boundaries. Yes, I'm seeing doctors. Yes, I'm taking appropriate action. I'm just not adding anxiety to the equation. I'm following medical advice and trusting my body's wisdom. It's not either or. Never let allowing become an excuse to neglect real responsibilities or necessary care. That's not allowing, that's denial. The parent protocol. If you have children, they're watching how you handle challenge. They're learning either forcing or allowing by your example. I stopped helping my kids with homework from anxiety, David shares. I used to hover, stress, make everyone miserable. Now I'm available, but not anxious. They can feel the difference. Their grades actually improved when I stopped transmitting stress while they worked. The friend filter. Some friendships are built entirely on shared struggle. When you stop struggling, these friendships reveal themselves. I lost friends, admits Karen. Friends who could only relate through complaint. Friends who needed me to be stressed so they felt normal. It hurt at first, but the friends who remained were real, and new friends appeared who could meet me in joy instead of just in problems. The social situations. At parties, networking events, social gatherings, you'll encounter the forcing Olympics. Everyone comparing their hustle, their stress, their exhaustion like medals. You have 3 options: smile and deflect. Things are good, thanks. Reframe gently. I'm trying a different approach. Exit gracefully. Excuse me, I need to... You don't need to participate in stress competitions. The protection practice. Living among forcers requires energetic hygiene. Their anxiety is contagious if you're not conscious. Before entering forcing environments, set an intention to maintain your allowing state. Remember, you're not responsible for others' anxiety. Plan your exit strategy if the energy becomes too intense. After exposure to forcing energy, take time alone to realign. Do something that returns you to flow. Remember, their urgency is not your emergency. The gradual influence. Over time, without preaching, your allowing affects your environment. My whole office shifted, reports Michael. I never talked about it, but my calm became contagious. People started taking real lunch breaks. The frantic energy dissipated. Problems started solving themselves. My boss asked me to lead a workshop on whatever you're doing. The ultimate freedom. The final stage of living among forcers is complete non-attachment to whether others get it. You're not allowing to prove something or convert anyone. You're allowing because it's how you choose to live. Some will be inspired and shift. Some will be threatened and retreat. Some will never notice. All of it is perfect. Your job isn't to change the world. It's to live from your truth. The world changes itself in response to authentic being. The coming wave. Here's what I've observed. The number of people discovering allowing is increasing exponentially. What seems weird now will be normal in a decade. You're not alone, you're just early. Every person who shifts from forcing to allowing makes it easier for the next person. You're part of a wave that's building, a wave that will eventually transform how humanity operates. But for now, be patient with the forcers. You were one of them. Last month, last year, last decade. Have compassion for their exhaustion. Hold space for their eventual recognition that there's an easier way. The final chapter will address the ultimate question. What happens when allowing becomes all you know? Chapter 10, The Life Beyond. 5 years from now, you'll struggle to remember what forcing felt like. The constant anxiety, the exhausting push, the desperate need to control, they'll seem like memories from someone else's life. Because in a very real sense, they will be. The complete shift. When allowing becomes your permanent state, you don't just live differently, you become different. Not in some mystical transformation, but in the practical reality of how you exist day to day. I can't generate anxiety anymore, says Michael, 3 years into allowing. I've tried, just to see if I could. It's like trying to forget how to ride a bike. Once your nervous system knows peace, it won't go back to chaos. The new challenges. Living from complete allowing brings challenges you didn't expect. The success dilemma. When everything flows easily, you might feel guilty. Others are struggling. Shouldn't you be too? This survivor's guilt passes. when you realize your ease gives others permission to find their own. The purpose. Question: without problems to solve or obstacles to overcome, who are you? This identity crisis leads to a beautiful discovery. You get to create from joy instead of from need. The abundance adjustment. When lack disappears from your experience, you have to learn what to do with abundance. Many people discover philanthropy, creativity, or service they never had bandwidth for when they were in survival mode. The relationship's evolution. Your relationships fundamentally change when you live from allowing, not just improve, transform. I don't have conflicts anymore, Sarah explains. Not because I avoid them, but because I don't create them. When someone brings conflict energy, I don't match it. I stay in allowing. Either they shift to meet me there, or they take their conflict elsewhere. You become incapable of codependency. You can love without needing, support without fixing, be present without absorbing others' drama. The work revolution. Your relationship to work transforms completely. You either find your current work becoming effortless and enjoyable, naturally transition to work that matches your allowing state. Discover that work itself becomes optional as abundance flows from unexpected sources. I still run my company, says Jennifer, but it runs itself now. I set intentions, not goals. I guide, not control. Revenue doubled while my hours halved. My team tells me I'm the least stressed CEO they've ever seen. The money reality. Money becomes genuinely neutral, just energy that flows where it's needed. I don't think about money anymore, Tom states simply. Not because I have millions, but because I have enough, always enough, sometimes barely enough, sometimes more than enough, but always enough. The fear is just gone. This isn't irresponsibility. Bills get paid, savings happen, investments grow, but the emotional charge around money dissolves. It becomes like breathing, necessary, natural, unworried about. The health state. Your body, no longer flooded with stress hormones, remembers its natural state of health. I aged backwards, Lisa laughs, showing me photos from 5 years ago. Not from treatments or supplements, just from not poisoning myself with anxiety. My doctor says my blood work looks 10 years younger than my age. This doesn't mean you never get sick, but illness becomes information rather than emergency. Your body communicates, you listen, you adjust. Health becomes a conversation, not a battle. The creative explosion. With no energy wasted on forcing, creativity explodes. I've written 3 books, started a podcast, learned piano, and launched a charity, David lists. Not from discipline or pushing. These things just wanted to be expressed through me. When you're not exhausting yourself with control, you have infinite energy for creation. The time experience. Time behaves differently in permanent allowing. I live in the eternal now, explains Rachel. Not in some mystical way, in a practical way. I'm not dragging the past or rehearsing the future. I'm just here, and from here, time feels infinite. I never rush, yet I'm never late. The joy baseline. Your emotional baseline shifts from anxiety to joy, not happiness that comes and goes. Joy, a deep contentment that doesn't depend on circumstances. Bad things still happen, admits Robert. My mom died. My business faced challenges. But underneath the appropriate sadness or concern, there's this unshakable joy. Not about anything, just joy at being alive, at participating in this extraordinary dance of existence. The service flow. Almost everyone who lives from allowing eventually finds themselves in service, not from obligation, but from overflow. When you're not desperately trying to fill your own cup, you naturally share from your abundance, says Anna. I mentor young entrepreneurs now, not teaching them business, teaching them allowing. Watching them shift from force to flow is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. The fear dissolution. Fear in its chronic form disappears. I still feel acute fear. If a car swerves toward me, I jump, clarifies Mark. But chronic fear, worry, anxiety about life itself, gone. I know I'm held. I know I'm guided. I know that whatever happens is part of a perfect unfolding I might not understand but can trust. The love frequency. You stabilize in what can only be called love, not emotional love, but love as a state of being. I love everything, says Patricia, the person who cuts me off in traffic. The challenge that appears, the rain that changes my plans. It's all just life happening, and I love life, even the parts that hurt. This isn't spiritual bypassing. You feel the full range of emotions, but underneath them runs this current of love that nothing can break. The ripple legacy. Your allowing creates ripples you'll never fully see. My daughter came to me last week, shares William. She said, "Dad, I just realized I've never seen you truly stressed. I thought everyone's parents were anxious. My friends are all on anxiety medication, but you just flow." And I realized I can too, Ari. Your allowing gives permission for others to allow. Your peace makes peace possible. Without trying to change anyone, you change everyone around you. The final recognition. At some point you realize allowing isn't something you do. It's what you are. You were never separate from infinite intelligence. You were always part of the flow. The forcing was the anomaly, a temporary forgetting of your true nature. Now you remember, and from this remembering, life lives itself through you with an ease that once would have seemed impossible. The beginning. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of a life where miracles are normal, where struggle is optional, where joy is baseline, where love is default. The beginning of discovering what you're capable of when you stop interfering with the infinite intelligence that's always been trying to give you everything. The beginning of the life you were born to live, but were taught to force your way toward instead of allowing your way into. Welcome home. You've always been here, you just forgot for a while. Now you remember, and now you allow. Epilogue. The invitation. If you've read this far, something in you recognizes truth, not because I've convinced you, but because you remember. Some part of you has always known that forcing was exhausting and unnecessary. Some part of you has always suspected there was an easier way. There is. You don't need to believe everything in this book. You don't need to use my language or follow my exact methods. You just need to experiment with one simple shift. What if you stopped forcing just one thing in your life? Pick something. Anything. Stop forcing it for 1 week. See what happens. That's all. The rest will teach itself. Because once you taste allowing, real allowing, not performing it, you can never go back to forcing being your only option. The door is open. The invitation is extended. The life you've been forcing toward is waiting for you to allow it. Begin now. Complete tenets of the allowing method. Core principles. Infinite intelligence is already orchestrating everything you need. Your job is not to make things happen, but to stop blocking what's trying to happen. Forcing creates resistance. Allowing creates flow. The universe operates on principles, not merit or deserving. Everything you need is already in motion toward you. Recognition principles. Your personal efforts are not just insufficient, they're counterproductive. You've never actually been in control of anything important. The most important things in life come from allowing, not forcing. Problems are not obstacles, but delivery systems for your good. Nothing happening is often perfect timing you can't yet see. The allowing verses. Forcing distinction. When you're forcing, time drags or races anxiously. Body is tense, shoulders, jaw, constant checking and rechecking. Exhaustion without physical activity. Solutions feel complicated. Need to convince others and yourself. Sense of swimming upstream. When allowing it, time flows naturally. Body is relaxed but alert. Trust in the unfolding process. Energy even after activity. Solutions are elegantly simple. Others naturally drawn to your ideas. Sense of being carried by current. The 3 stages of awakening. Recognition, seeing that personal effort is counterproductive. Release, stopping the illusion of personal control. Reception, allowing infinite intelligence to operate through you. Daily practice principles. Morning realignment, 3 minutes. Recognize the intelligence that kept you alive all night. Release need to force outcomes today. Open to receive what's already in motion throughout the day. Check in at 10 a.m. Am I forcing or flowing? Make decisions from feeling, not thinking. Choose what feels lighter, easier, more natural. Act without second guessing. Evening release. Release the entire day completely. Trust that tomorrow is already arranged. Rest in knowing, not planning. Action principles. Allowing isn't passive, it's aligned action. Take obvious, natural actions. Skip forced, anxious actions. Follow inspiration, not desperation. Do what feels easy, skip what feels hard. Act from peace, not pressure. The love frequency principle. Infinite intelligence operates on the frequency of love. Real letting go only happens when you want the highest good for all. You can't fake this frequency. The universe doesn't respond to performance. When you can feel unconditional love for a situation, you've found the channel. Problem navigation principles. Every problem has 3 layers. The surface story, what seems wrong. The resistance layer, your fight against it. The gift core, what's trying to emerge. Problems are redirections towards something better. Recurring problems indicate violation of your true nature. Stop fighting problems. Explore them for gifts. Communication from infinite intelligence. 3 types of guidance. Full body yes. Entire being agrees. Persistent nudge. Gentle but insistent. Sacred no. Doors that won't open. Distinguishing real guidance. Real guidance feels calm even with big changes. Persists without anxiety. Suggests unexpected solutions. Benefits everyone involved. Stronger when relaxed. Mental noise. Feels urgent and anxious. Changes constantly. Involves getting from others. Benefits you at others' expense. Louder when stressed. Deserving principles. The universe doesn't operate on merit. You don't need to deserve. You need to allow. Worthiness wounds block receiving. Receiving good is what makes you feel worthy, not the reverse. Everything good is grace, unearned and freely given. Money principles. Money flows where it's allowed, not where it's deserved. Trust that financial needs are already known and met. View bills as evidence of value already received. See incoming money as one channel of infinite supply. Release money anxiety to infinite intelligence. Relationship principles. Stop trying to make people love or understand you. Allow relationships to reveal themselves. When you stop performing, real connection happens. Right people magnetize. Wrong people fade. Your allowing gives others permission to allow. Integration principles. Living among forcers. Don't preach or convince, demonstrate through living. Translate spiritual language into everyday terms. Maintain boundaries without defending. Protect your energy in forcing environments. Have compassion for those still forcing. Results, timeline. Week 1, awareness of constant forcing. Week 2, moments of genuine allowing, small miracles. Week 3, forcing becomes uncomfortable. Week 4, allowing feels natural. Month 2, life reorganizes around allowing. Month 3, can't imagine living any other way. The ultimate recognition. You're not separate from infinite intelligence. You are an expression of infinite intelligence. Allowing isn't something you do, it's what you are. The forcing was temporary, forgetting of your true nature. Miracles aren't special, they're normal when you allow. Maintenance principles. Daily realignment, 10 seconds each morning. Grateful noticing of the miraculous ordinary. Gentle return when you fall back into forcing. No self-judgment, just redirection. Trust that allowing becomes permanent. The final understanding. Problems solve themselves when you stop interfering. Success comes from alignment, not achievement. Peace is your natural state. Joy is your baseline. Love is your frequency. You are already held, guided, and provided for. Everything you've been forcing toward is trying to flow to you.